I'll never forget what he said. He said, Babar, there's two ways out for you. I'm going croaky, boys. There's two ways out for you.
That sounds really long, doesn't it? Half of your life you have been involved in one way or the other in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. How would you motivate yourself to carry on coming to Jiu-Jitsu or, staying on the mats if there was a period of time where you were on a bit of a downer?
Welcome to the Flowing State of BJJ, where we talk about all things Jiu-Jitsu. In today's episode, we're going to do an interview-style podcast, where the subject is me.
And as Babar said, we wanted to give a little bit more about Babar himself. Well, I wanted to anyway, so I kind of forced him into it. But just kind of like an interview style. We've got some questions just to see how you got started, what your ups and downs of the Jiu-Jitsu journey you've been on. Like Iron Man origins, but this is Babar origins today. We'll start off with some kind of fun, quick fire ones, just so we can get a general overview of where you sit on, in terms of gi, no gi, and all this. Okay. So, if you had to choose one particular type of jiu-jitsu, would it be gi or no gi, and you had to just do that forever? You couldn't change. Why?
Okay, so if we do it now, like you asked me, and you're asking me now, it's no gi.
Okay.
Right? So that's what we're doing now. That's what I'm studying. That's the thing. If you asked me 5 years ago, it would have been gi.
Okay.
So the transition to no gi has been happening for longer than 5 years, but I started in the gi.
Yeah.
For the first 6 years of my training, it was all gi. I never did any no gi, and the passion was gi. As more people wanted to know no gi, people didn't have a gi. When I went off jiu-jitsu and came back to jiu-jitsu, after that it was all no gi.
So it'd be fair to say you were true to the art in the gi, and then you transition, going back on what we were saying, no gi's kind of taken over now. And did you transition over because in that particular break, because you wanted to try something new? Were you bored of gi, or because as we know, Babar competes as well, and around the brown belt level, when you were brown belt some years ago, you were heavily competing, hence all the medals on the wall, and your smooth com profile is out of the
Okay, well, can you bring this down a couple of pages?
What made you transition? What was the main reason you transitioned from gi to no gi?
The club. Okay. So I was teaching a lot of the no-gi classes.
Okay.
What I found was that gi and no-gi games are now so different.
Okay.
The meta in each of the game, gi and no-gi, is so vastly different.
Okay.
Because when we go into the gi, we start talking about all the gi guards, and I know we've been doing some session where we start talking about worm guard and the matrix guard, and we start talking about that stuff, and then you come across to the gi, and you just don't get all of them. So now you're talking about leg entanglements, and you're talking about K guard and all that type of stuff. And what I was finding was that when students were doing both, they weren't getting good at any one in particular.
Okay.
So then we made a decision as a club, actually, for the adults, we're just going to go no-gi.
Yeah.
And that way we become specific, and we can really focus, and we can get good at one style of jiu-jitsu. And when that happened, then I'll study that style of jiu-jitsu a lot more.
Yeah.
Do I watch gi? Sometimes. I still do. But my main focus is on the no-gi style.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take it back all those years now. So we're going down memory lane now.
Okay.
Yeah. 16-year-old kid in school, because you got bullied. What happened? Do you even get exposed to it? Because back then I could imagine it to be, the exposure now for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is massive. But how was it back when you were younger, at the start of your Jiu-Jitsu journey, and what made you get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I was forced into Jiu-Jitsu. Community center around the corner, and they had just put in some funding for some martial arts classes.
Okay.
Now my brother doesn't know what martial arts is or anything like that. He just put in funding for this martial arts class, and not many people turned up.
Yeah.
So he's come home and says, "Babar, you're going to this class."
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't want to go to the class.
No questions, you're going.
No, he didn't ask any questions. No,
Yeah.
he was like, you're going. I'm like, I don't want to go to the class. And my dad had actually prohibited me from doing martial arts.
Okay.
Right? And my dad said, you can't do martial arts. So when this came around, my brother said, you're going because the numbers aren't good enough. We're not going to get funding
again. And what kind of martial arts was that at the time?
So it was just class as Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
That's all they said. Yeah. When I got there, first ever coach was Tony Devine.
Okay.
Who was on the British judo team.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was amazing at judo. And they were doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Okay. He was also a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And slowly as that class developed, people wanted to, he brought some kickboxing people down. Okay. And pretty much everyone went to the kickboxing side.
Okay. So it wasn't a specialized kind of club, it was just a load of everything. Okay.
But by that time, by the kickboxing that started, I'd fallen in love with Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
And I was like, Coach, can I still do Jiu-Jitsu? So he brought down a brown belt. And me and the brown belt used to be on one side doing our Jiu-Jitsu thing, and everyone else was doing kickboxing.
How long did it take you from entering the door of forced entry by your brother into this martial arts club that wasn't specialized up until the point you knew, you know what, I actually love this sport? How long were you actually a practitioner for or learning at that point?
I was sold on the first roll.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was sold on the first roll. I remember like the first roll with Tony.
Yeah.
I was sold. I wanted to do this.
What move did he do to you that how did he sell it to you?
He was showing us the armbar. I asked him a question. I went, where can you do the armbar from? And I remember him saying, you can do it from everywhere.
Okay.
And he got the guy who was practicing on, and he did it from mount, from side control, from back. He just went through all these positions, and he was just swinging off and getting all these armbars. And I was like, wow. I was just mesmerized, and I was like, I want to be able to do that.
Wow. So if we fast forward, so that's what sold you, and you knew you were bought in, and you were on this journey until the last day. Started off as a white belt. How was the feeling of leveling up throughout? If you can kind of give us an overview, because this probably, we've got 20 years of experience here. So as a experience, how did it feel when each time you leveled up, and which level up do you remember being the most happy about?
Talk about blue belt first. I remember the blue belt one because we went to a normal training session. Yeah. So this was at Nova Vida in Huddersfield.
Okay.
Went to a normal training session, and at the end of the session we used to have rolls. Back then in Nova Vida, there were no time limits.
Okay.
You just rolled until there was a sub.
Wow.
Then you stood up, walked around, found someone else, and just you rolled until there was a sub.
Gordon Ryan would love that.
I'm sure he would. I'm sure he would. And that was just me and my training partner at the time, Coach Muhammad. We were rolling together.
Okay.
And the coaches came over, Mike and Andy.
Yeah.
And they says, you roll with me and you roll with him. And Coach Muhammad rolled with Andy and I rolled with Mike.
Okay.
And they battered us.
Wow.
Like
no holding
mercy,
back, nothing.
Okay. So Mike had this like poker face.
Yeah.
Right. And as he'd pass the guard, right, he'd be breathing through his nose.
Like Darth Vader.
Like Darth Vader. And he'd just slide through your guard effortlessly. Then he'd mount and then he'd tap you out. And he just kept going. I'm looking over at Coach Muhammad, and Andy's doing the same
Relentless.
thing to him. Relentless. Right?
Yeah.
And then at the end, once they're done, and there's a lot of like sack of potatoes on them, we were dead.
Yeah.
Right? They walk into the back cupboard, got a blue belt, and just kind of threw it at us.
So it's very much like an old school way of,
very old school.
Because you don't really see that much now. In a lot of clubs, mention no names, it's a matter of giving some kind of fee and getting leveled up. This is a very old school, traditional way.
Yeah. And we weren't expecting it. There wasn't a ceremony. At the end, you just came and you just gave us the blue belt. You go, there you
and
go.
you move on.
Over.
Wow. Okay, so then that was your blue belt journey. Yeah. Out of all the belts, so obviously then you got your purple, your brown, your black. Yeah. These belts, which was the most memorable and why?
So the blue belt was the most memorable.
Okay.
Because it was my first achievement.
Yes.
I got my blue belt just around the time I got my black belt in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
But at the time I held my blue belt more valuable. I'd paid for my black belt.
Yes.
Right? I'd gone through
this is in traditional jiu-jitsu.
Traditional jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So like I'd gone to Liverpool, I'd paid the money, and I kind of knew like I paid the money now.
Even if I don't get battered, or I get battered and don't do good, you're getting this belt.
At the end of it, there's going to be a ceremony. Yeah. I'm going to get my belt.
Guaranteed.
Like I'm going there to get my belt.
Okay.
In essence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they're going to put me through my paces. They're going to make me sweat. They're going to, whatever happens is going to happen. But at the end of it, they're going to say, there's a certificate, there's your belt.
Yep.
in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there was no expectation. Like, I didn't know when I was going to get my, am I good enough? Am I not good enough? It wasn't an assessment on like that day, that thing.
There's no kata to complete. There's no move to do
no money had exchanged in terms of the belt. The belt was free. They just threw it at me. I'm just like, oh, fantastic. So that was my most significant, because I had a direct comparison then. Between the two martial arts. And it was my first achievement in Jiu-Jitsu. That was the most memorable. Purple was pretty standard. Like you said, there's your purple belt. I know it more. I'd had that experience before. Brown it had its significance because it was my first belt under the Game Fight banner. Coach Mabzi gave me my brown belt.
So that was memorable for you because obviously you've trained.
So I trained at ABT for a long time. I'd stopped. I'd been off a long time. I'd come back. I'd put in hard work, and Coach Mabzi had recognized that. And then I got it by Vinicius. I got my brown belt. Black's heavy. Black's a heavy belt.
It comes with a lot of pressure and expectation, doesn't it?
Like, people feel like a blue belt's a heavy belt, and it is. I remember at the time thinking, because now blue belt's a hard belt because all the white belts are chasing you. Right? All your rolls get harder at blue belt.
It's actually easy to roll with someone higher level than you in a blue belt, because people expect you to get tapped by these higher belts.
But once you get your blue belt, right, there's a thing in Jiu-Jitsu called the blue belt blues. Because what happens is now every white belt sees you as a target, because if I can tap him, I'm a blue belt too.
Like a direct comparison.
100%. And then all the purple belts want to put you in your place. Like, you're not here yet.
You're getting
still
squeezed
there
from both ends.
And then all the browns and blacks, well, they're browns and blacks. You're not going to touch them. But like all the purple belts want to put you in your place. Like, listen, you're good, but you're just not this good yet. And all the white belts really want to chase you because you're the standard now. Black belt is different, because now all the white belts look at you as some sort of, like you said earlier, the oracle. And I'm like, I'm just the dude doing jiu-jitsu.
So it comes with a lot of pressure and expectation, doesn't it? Like,
now people start asking you lots of questions, like, oh, what happens if this happens? I'm looking at them, I've never seen the position before. And they're like, but you're a black belt. I'm like, doesn't mean I know everything.
I think some of the extra pressure comes, and I see this in you because obviously teach me as well. You're always reading, and you're assessing the meta in these competitions, and because you always have to stay ahead of the wave, obviously, because you're teaching competition proven techniques, so it makes sense. And that's the expectation of the black belt that you mentioned as well, I think.
And that's more than just the black belt, that's the club, right? Because I have the club, I can't be behind the wave. I need to make sure that when, especially the advanced belts come to me and they have a problem, I need to know what the latest solution to this is.
So let me just step in there. So let's just, we're talking about the belts. We're going on to this game fight aspect now. When did you find out that you wanted to take that extra step and in Jiu-Jitsu and open a business, put that extra work in? There's a lot of pressure from students and just the sheer volume. Obviously, you've got a day-to-day job and you're doing this. When did you find out that you actually wanted to do it?
Game Fight actually is the third incarnation of the Jiu-Jitsu club we ran. So if we go back, when we got our blue belts, there wasn't many gyms in Bradford. I think there was maybe one. So we started coaching under the Nova Vida banner. On a little school in Lum Lane. We used to hold, I think it was weekend classes, adults only first. Then we started introducing kids classes. That's why the kids classes really started to boom, and I realized that, you know what, this coaching stuff, I like this coaching stuff. I thought I was alright at it. Looking back, I was absolutely like, compared now to then, 15 years of experience does a lot for you. So there was that. We had to move, and then so we opened a new club. We called that Saracens Jiu-Jitsu. So we did that, and that was run out of Masjid Umar. So we did that for a while, and that was kids and some adults, and this was all gi.
Oh wow!
All gi.
Staying true to the arts, as we said,
back then. So it was all gi stuff, and some guys who trained then are still training now.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and this is like, I'm talking like 15 years ago.
The OGs.
The OGs, yeah. So we trained there for a while. We stopped teaching at the masjid because stuff got political. And then Game Fight started when we were in Newcastle.
So that's a bit far away from Bradford, isn't it?
So my brother, again, is involved in this. My brother had contact from a team and they needed a goalkeeper. And Umar's a goalkeeper. My son's a goalkeeper. Yeah. So he forced us to go to Newcastle to play for this other team now.
This is your older brother, the same brother who forced you into the journey in the beginning.
Same
bit of a trend coming on here.
So we went to Newcastle and they were playing. One of the brothers there come out there, I run this gym and I've been trying to get in touch with your number. You need to come show me some jiu-jitsu at my gym. At that point, I'd been out of jiu-jitsu for almost 2 years.
Yeah. Wow.
I had no interest in it. I'd gone into powerlifting. I was loving powerlifting.
And this was started because this politics at the old
So we'll go into why I stopped jiu-jitsu in a minute. Okay. But I stopped jiu-jitsu at this point. Okay. Done. We'd gone up to Newcastle and this brother says, you need to come. And I wasn't interested. Yeah. But he kept messaging me afterwards. They said, come down. People are all looking forward to it. Come down. I'm like, all right then. I'll go down for one session. Yeah. I'll stop this brother pestering me. Yeah. And then I'm done.
Get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way. I'll be polite. I'll have the session. He'll realize I'm not that good because I haven't been there for 2 years. Okay. And then I'm done. Came down and it was a game fight. Yeah. So this is where I'm introduced to game fight.
Okay, so this is the first game fight, exposure to game fight at this point.
They'd be running these classes. They'd be coming like once or twice a week. Someone from Leeds would come over. Okay. Coach James or Coach Mavsy would come over, take this class.
And this is in Newcastle.
So this conversation happened in Newcastle. Okay. They introduced him in Newcastle. But we're back in Bradford now. Okay. Cup has happened. Yeah. They haven't won anything. We've come back to Bradford now, and the guy's got my number because we exchanged numbers, and he's messaging me, come down. Week goes past, 2 weeks go past, come down. Why didn't you come down? My cat's passed away, my dog's passed away, whatever. Yeah. Like, I'm just making excuses. Yeah. Like, I don't want to go. Yeah. Finally, I'm like, you know what, third or fourth week, I'm like, I'm going now. Yeah. I go to this class. Get absolutely hammered in this class. Okay. Yeah, I remember bigger bars tapped me out. I couldn't, white belts, I couldn't beat white belts.
And what belt were you at this time?
I was a purple belt at this time.
Okay. Because you've been out for so long.
I've been out for so long.
The purple's in there somewhere.
Yeah. Like, I'm struggling to tap white. I didn't tap white belts. Wow. Couldn't tap white belts. Blue belts were tapping me out. Okay. Yeah. And I was like, geez, what's going on here? Yeah. I couldn't leave it like this. I'm like, it's been so long that I've been invested in this. Yeah. I went home, and anyone who jiu-jitsu knows this, I went home depressed. Yeah. Head down, silent car ride home. I'm just like, what on earth? Broken. I'm like, what on earth just happened there? Yeah. Like, I can't leave it like that. Yeah. So I came back the next session. Okay. Did a bit better. And I thought, you know what?
Getting back into it.
I can do this. Yeah. Like, I'm going to get to a level where I'm okay. Yeah.
Right? And I'll stop then.
And I'll stop. Yeah. I had no interest in carrying on. Yeah. And as the time went on, I looked around and the guys were on and off. And I'm like, these boys deserve better. Okay. They deserve structure. They deserve, someone who's going to be here,
some organization. Yeah.
So I offered the guy who ran the gym, I will run a class. You organize Mondays, and whoever comes from Leeds will do Mondays. Yeah. I will do Wednesdays. Yeah. And I roped Coach Maj into doing Fridays. Okay. Right. So we've gone from 1 session a week to 3 sessions a week. Okay. So I'm like, okay, this is better. Yeah. Right. Then eventually I started doing Mondays and Wednesdays. Okay. Right? Because the coach who came from Leeds is coming all the way from Leeds. Yeah. I'm like, why are you making all that?
It's a bit of a trek.
Yeah. I'll do Mondays and I'll do Wednesdays. Yeah. Right? Even then after a while, I was like, actually, you know what? I'll do Monday, Wednesday, I'll do Friday as well. Yeah. Right?
You're fully invested now at this point.
At this point, I'm like, these guys need structure. They need are we working this game? Are we working this game? Top game, bottom
some
game,
kind of strategy,
stuff like that. And then from there we moved out to Wakefield Road, and Wakefield Road we moved here.
Wow. And here we are today. And now the Empire, Alhamdulillah. That's kind of a deep dive into your kind of story, how you've got started, your journey through all the belts, blue being the most memorable, because I think the beating that you got by your coaches at that particular time, and not so much on the politics, because we don't want to turn this into, we're not getting David Cameron on here. What kept you motivated through the tough times in jiu-jitsu? As we know, there's ups and downs. You always say this yourself as well. What kept you motivated through the tough times? How did you turn the bad times into good times in terms of, one, how you felt about jiu-jitsu, and two, your performances on the mat?
There's a lot to unpack there. So at the start, I think the motivation was easy. Okay. even for the side, like I was a lot lighter back then, but I've inherited some like strength.
Yeah.
So I've been doing weight training for longer than I've been doing jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
I've always been strong for my size.
Yeah.
So when I went up and I had no skill and the person opposite me had no skill, like I do okay in them. Right?
Yeah.
And when I went up against some blue belts,
yeah.
I'd be hard to tap.
We're using brute strength.
Yeah, I'd be hard to tap.
Yeah.
Right. I remember one roll with one blue belt that was like, it was a 40-minute roll before we
40?
tapped. 40. Yeah.
Wow.
Because remember,
there were no time limits.
There's no time limits, right? So we looked at the time and we started rolling.
Fight to the death.
40 minutes later, we were both exhausted.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because back then, we used to do it in a center, beating center. And at the end of the session, they used to start picking the mats up.
Okay.
Right? So they pick it up from one side where the doors were.
Yeah.
And they slowly, so we just keep moving.
Toward the back end of the...
And then there'd be like 2 mats left.
Yeah.
And then they just pick the last 2 mats up.
Wow.
And then we were like, okay, we have to stop now.
Yeah, it was just you two left on the mats at that point.
We were shattered. So like, it was a 40-minute roll. So like, I'd just be hard to tap. So it was easy to be motivated then because I felt I was good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was rubbish. I felt I was good.
Yeah.
But then when the bad times came, I felt like my whole motivation at the start was, why am I doing jiu-jitsu? And when I started jiu-jitsu, I said, obviously I started because I was forced.
By the older brother?
By my older brother. But then my reasoning to carry on was because it's a sunnah of the Prophet.
Okay. Yes, it is.
And even in the bad time, if I want to do the sunnah for myself, I got to keep going.
Okay.
So when I get battered, I'd be like, it's okay, I'm learning. And I just carry on.
Okay. So when you're on the mats, and that goes, it's a nice segue to go into, how would you motivate yourself to carry on doing, coming to jiu-jitsu or, staying on the mats if there was a period of time where you were on a bit of a downer?
I believe that, and this is true, but I always told myself, like, the bad times will go.
Okay.
And I started developing a game where I could get quick success.
Okay.
Yeah? So my guard game in the gi, I'd always get arm bars from it.
Okay.
So whenever I was in a bad place, I'd just go back to my arm bar.
People who know you now might not believe it because you're very top-heavy pressure passing. And you were talking now, in your early days, you used to be a guard player.
Yeah, at the start, it was all close guard.
Okay.
Close guard arm bar is what I was known for.
Wow. Okay.
That was my
We'll touch on that. So you were talking about.
So I'd go back to that. I'd lean on what I was good at.
Okay.
And that's what got me through the bad times.
Wow.
Leaning on the game. I did quit jiu-jitsu though.
Yeah. So that sounded like when we were going through the journey of your belt, it sounded like that was a bit of a dark moment in your career or journey, to say. Without getting too political, how did you manage to get up from that particular point? And
so getting back was an accident. So that was a Newcastle trip. I left without any politics. I left because I didn't believe jiu-jitsu worked. I thought it was a lie.
And that's coming from you?
Yeah. I genuinely thought they're chatting rubbish.
Wow.
Because the dream we're sold in jiu-jitsu is the smaller guy can beat the bigger
guy. Yeah.
I still remember the role.
Yeah.
It was in AVT. It was against blue belt. I'm a purple belt.
All right.
I'm weighing 77 kilos.
But this is after coming back after 2 years out.
No.
Oh, this is why you took 2 years out. Yes.
So this is the role that broke me.
Wow. We should call the podcast the role that broke Babar. We'll do a separate one on that one day.
So this is the role that I was just like, I'm done. I'm not coming back to this. This doesn't work. They're lying.
Okay. Let's relive the nightmare with you.
It's in 2 parts. So first bit is we're doing takedown drills.
Okay.
And it's against the same gentleman. I'm not going to mention his name, right?
No names.
He's about 90 kilos.
All right.
I'm 77.
Yeah.
The first part of this class is we're doing takedown rolls. So we're all against the wall. You'll know this because you've been to our beginners class. So you're against the wall. There's a couple of people out in the center.
Yeah.
You come out to somebody.
Yeah.
Your aim is to take them down. Their thing, take you down.
Yeah.
The winner stays
on.
Yeah. King of the hill style.
Yeah.
So I came out against this. So I'm a purple belt, 77 kilos. He's a 90 kilo blue belt.
Okay.
His arms are like, I get him to lift his arms up. I shoot underneath him. I get to his leg.
Yeah.
As I hit his leg, it's like hitting a concrete wall.
Wow.
And I feel this, like, I don't know if you've seen it in Romeo Must Die, where the guy kicks him in the top of the head and all of his spine clatters together.
Yes, there's like a bit of a graphic scene.
Yeah. It felt like
that's
that.
Going back that one. Yeah, well, I could picture that.
It felt like that. All of my spine just lit on fire.
And he just stood still like
and he just looked at me as I bounced off him.
Okay.
And then he landed on me.
And that's where the doubts might be started to creep
in.
So
I'm just like, I can't take this guy down. Okay, I'll pull guard.
Okay.
But we can't pull guard in this particular game.
Yeah.
So that bit happens, techniques happen, other stuff happens. At the end of the round, he's like, oh, do you fancy a roll?
Okay.
I'm like, yes. I'm going to
You
whoop
need to
this
redeem
guy.
Yourself. Self-consciously anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to whoop this guy for doing that to me.
Which he didn't do anything, it was your own doing. But yeah.
In my mind, he did it to me, right? Because you never blame yourself. In my mind, he did it to me.
Yeah.
Right? So I start playing guard. I'm a guard player, right?
Yeah.
Right. I managed to get a sweep and I do a knee slide in the sweep to pass his guard.
Yeah.
Right. He lifts me up and throws me.
Wow.
Like I was a paperweight. I'm just like, what was that?
So he's about 13 kgs heavier at this point. Yeah.
And he's just stronger than me.
Yeah.
And I'm generally strong, but like he's way stronger than me. He threw me, came up on top, guard game again. I'm fighting for my life in this guard, right? But my guard's quite good, right? Managed to get on top.
Yeah.
Right. So that just tosses me. Doesn't sweep me, just tosses me off him.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, how am I supposed to stay on top of this guy?
This guy's just bench pressing you off.
I'm like, and I'm trying, and eventually he gets on top, passes my guard, submits me.
Okay.
I'm just like, this is BS.
And that.
I'm like, my sweeps were super technical.
Yeah.
I clean swept him.
Yeah.
His was just strength.
Yeah.
And my guard passes were technical.
Yeah.
Right? His guard pass was just get off, man.
Yeah.
Boom.
Brute strength pass. Ram through the guard.
Yeah. And I was just like, how am a small guy supposed to go up against a big guy?
Big guy. Yeah.
The phrase that is supposed to be is a small technical guy beats a big non-technical guy.
Yeah. So like if you're out on the streets, like how Gracie Jiu-Jitsu came in, where it's a Jiu-Jitsu for the street.
Yeah. But then no one says that because it doesn't sound as good.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I come to you and say our tagline is small technical person beats big non-technical person, you're just like, you want to us technical, what's technical, right? Yeah. The tagline is a small person can be a big person.
Yeah, like any layman, any general person.
And I was just like, this is it. And
So at that point, did you know that? So I wanted to know, what submission did he get you in?
I believe it was a head and arm.
Head and arm choke. Yeah. Okay, so he's got you into this choke now. At that point, you're thinking, I'm done. Then obviously, we know how you got back into it. Yeah. That was in Newcastle. Yeah. Wow.
So I started, because of that, I went into my powerlifting.
Yeah.
Right. And when I went back to actually rolling, right, I was 77 kg when I left. I was 95 kilos when I came back.
You were jacked.
I was strong for me.
Yeah.
Right? I was not in relation to other people. I was strong for me.
From where you came from, the 77 to the 90.
Yes. Yeah. And I used it all.
With the vengeance.
With the vengeance. I remember going back and someone had me in half guard and I just leg pressed out.
Oh, wow. So you were that guy.
I was that guy.
You were that guy.
I was that guy.
I wonder if you've broke many hearts as well and people have took 2 years out as well, but you know how you did. Okay, so we've had a dive into your journey. You've talked us through the hard times and how you got back into it. How has BJJ changed your life outside of the gym? Your sons obviously are training as well, and they're a very good level, alhamdulillah. How has it changed your life? What aspects of BJJ do you incorporate into your outside life off the mats?
BJJ kind of encompasses, it's a lot of my life.
Yeah.
It's a lot of my life with BJJ. If I'm not here in the gym, if I'm not in the gym working something, teaching or rolling, I'm studying it or I'm talking to it. Like last night, me and Umar were up until 1 o'clock.
Wow.
Because I went to Ground Up Jiu-Jitsu, which is Roberto's new place. If you're in the area, 100%
we're going to try get him on the podcast as well, which we're working on. Babar's working on.
I went there and he showed us some Del Hiva stuff.
Okay.
Now, I'm not much of a guard player these days, but Umar is.
Yeah.
So we were up until 1 o'clock troubleshooting and doing stuff like that.
Wow.
So Jiu-Jitsu is a lot of my life. It's helped me. So when we go back, I've always known that I wanted my kids to get into it.
Yeah.
Never forced him.
Yeah.
At the start, when I was teaching jiu-jitsu, Umar wasn't doing jiu-jitsu, and he still has the memory of playing around in the hall.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember him every so often. He'd run onto the mats, double leg someone, and run back off.
Yeah.
And just as a little 5-year-old,
he's done his jiu-jitsu for the
And that's it. And that was all. If he was in the environment, I was happy.
Yeah.
As he grew older, you could see there was an interest, so he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So I showed him stuff, but I showed him stuff in class.
Yeah.
So it was this is your jiu-jitsu time.
Yeah.
It's not all the time, because as a small kid, he'd be overwhelmed with it, I thought. What you find with kids, they want to be like daddy.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Footballers, kids want to be footballers. Cricket players, kids want to be cricket players.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu guys, dad want to be jiu-jitsu.
They want to be black belt.
They want to be black belt. Yeah. So I think that's a big influence in jiu-jitsu development.
Yeah. I think for knowing Babar as well, I think knowing you as well, it's a big part of your life. Obviously, you run a gym as well, jiu-jitsu gym, and like you said, your sons are practitioners as well. So I can imagine there's not a day where jiu-jitsu is not involved, either spoken about or you're training or teaching. So it's a heavy part of your life. I just want to touch on some views for yourself in your kind of training philosophy and advice to other people in regard to jiu-jitsu. Go back again to when you were a white or blue belt. How has your approach to training compared to now being a well-established black belt coach, to when you were a white or blue belt?
When we're talking about training now, I'm always working on something. So, for example, I'm doing a particular guard.
Yeah.
And what you'll find in all my roles is I'll be going to that guard, I'll be working that position, I'll be working that sequence.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas in my white and blue belt days, everything was a fight for the life.
Yeah.
We train in field. Yeah. The right back was, who did you beat today?
Yeah, yeah.
How was your role with so-and-so? Did you beat this person?
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas now, I was rolling with my students the other day, and I was working on this guard that I'm working on at the moment, and he passed my guard.
Okay.
Right. So I sat with him afterwards. I'm like, what did you do? How did you do
troubleshooting.
My troubleshooting. I'm like, I see what you did.
Yeah,
I made this mistake. You capitalized on that. There's no way I did that as a white belt. There's no way I did that as a blue belt.
So it's fair to say that, and I will always remember this, and this is something that you've said to me recently, and we can put it into the broader picture of your journey. At the beginning, you're learning the encyclopedia of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and when you get into the later stages of your Jiu-Jitsu journey, which is like the advanced colours, your browns and your blacks.
Purple, brown, black.
Yeah, you're learning the more detailed aspect, even bringing your own creative kind of thoughts, moves into things. So that kind of resonates with what you're speaking about at the moment. So you've been training now for 25 years in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Some people who I know are not even that old, and you've been training more Jiu-Jitsu longer than them. You know how to manage injuries in that time. I'm sure you've got a few. Tell us, one, the most memorable injury you got and how, and two, how do you avoid burnout in the longer term of things?
So in terms of injuries, I've been quite blessed.
Okay.
Right. I've had two kind of major injuries. One is my elbow. It was in comp. There was a loud pop. I looked around like, who was that?
Yeah.
It was me. Everyone's looking at me. I'm like, why is everyone looking at me?
Snap, crackle and pop.
Yeah, there's just loud pop. Right?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, I'm looking around thinking, where did that come from? And everyone's looking at me. And I'm like, oh wow, that was me. Didn't need surgery. Didn't need anything like that. It was just physio.
Yeah.
And the other one was I had an LCL tear, and that was because I was trying something new.
Okay.
I was trying this lockdown thing from anyway, and someone just extended their leg when I wasn't expecting it, and I just heard loads of pops.
Yeah. And you realized it was you.
That I knew it was me because I felt them.
Okay.
That I knew it was me. Again, didn't need surgery for it. Just needed to behave myself. Had to pull out a couple of comps.
Yeah, I touched on Babar's been a practitioner for 25 years. Done a lot of competitions, and you would have had a lot of stress and strain put in your body. What kind of advice can you give to the people watching who may be practicing themselves in terms of on the mats? Manage how do you avoid burnout or injury over the long term? People will want to do jiu-jitsu, until their 50s and 60s. How do you manage that? What kind of advice can you give?
Hopefully I'm still doing Jiu-Jitsu when I'm 50 and 60. One is listen to your body. If you are hurting somewhere, listen. Like, don't ignore, like, oh, I'm hurting here. Like, you listen to your body.
Yeah, okay.
And if something hurts, then take the precaution. Like, we got a student here at the moment, Kash, he's hurt his knee.
Yeah.
So he's coming to the gym. He's doing the technique part. But in the rolling part, he's going with the more experienced students and doing drilling, which means he doesn't put weight on his knees.
Yeah, it's about being smart, right?
Back attacks and side control escape and stuff like that. So it's about planning it. You're going to get hurt. No one should promise you're not going to get hurt. It's a contact sport. A contact sport where it's based on ripping people's limbs apart, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to get hurt at some point. And when you do hurt, we need to manage it. Still come to the gym.
Yeah.
But just be careful.
Yeah.
You mentioned burnout there in the long term.
Yeah.
Turn off.
So
we just had to
take a break from Jiu-Jitsu.
So depends how you do it. So we had a competition recently.
Yeah.
And coming up to the competition, we were very focused.
Yeah.
Like, as a club.
Yeah.
Focused, dialed in.
Yeah.
After the comp finished, I turned off. I stopped watching Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
I stopped. Like, in my rolls, I was rolling. I wasn't working anything.
Yeah.
I was just rolling.
Yeah.
People were passing my guard. I was like, enjoy yourself.
You just wanted to give your brain a break.
I just needed to step back.
Yeah.
People were asking me questions. I'm like, I don't know.
You're still on the mats, but in a way you've stepped back because your mind is not as focused, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. You're not thinking about what you're doing. It's instinct. It's flowing.
I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
I'm just here to have a good time. It doesn't matter if my guard gets passed. It doesn't matter if I get mounted.
Yeah.
I remember someone mounted me whilst I was having. I was like, wow, I haven't been here for a while. I'm like,
what is that?
I'm just like, geez, you mount down. Wow. Like, in drilling is different, but like in a roll, someone got to mount. I was like, oh. Well, I got to do something. Yeah. So I turned off. And then I didn't then ramp up to 100%.
Yeah.
I slowly started ramping back up.
Yeah.
And maybe 10, 15 minutes of watching Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start focusing now. Yeah. Let's get back into a guard.
Yeah.
Signed up for a comp.
Yeah.
So now I'm getting back into comp rounds now.
And you're going to remember the people who mounted you and you're going to make sure they get your vengeance. Okay, so there's some words of wisdom for you guys if you are in the game. What Babar said there, just to take some of his advice might help you out. Okay, so we've spoken about, your journey went from a gi to no gi, from a guard player to playing top heavy pressure. Everyone has a role model that they aspire to be like. We're in Jiu-Jitsu, so it might be someone famous. I'm sure some of the kids want to be like Gordon Ryan. Two parts. When you were playing gi at that particular time, who was your role model? Who did you want to be like? Who influenced you?
At that time?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Okay.
I wasn't watching Jiu-Jitsu back then.
Okay.
So I wasn't invested like I'm invested now.
Yeah.
One thing that I found is if you study outside, just like anything, the more time you spend towards it, not necessarily physically, but the more time you invest in it, faster you're going to improve. Yeah. So I started studying really late. When I came back to Jiu-Jitsu is when I really started studying. Before that, whatever my coach said, I was doing it.
Okay.
So my main study wasn't so much, I studied Gordon Ryan.
Yeah. But now you've transitioned into no-gi, right?
Yeah. So this is after. So I've had the pause, bodybuilder, powerlifter, 95 kilos, come
Ronnie
back.
Coleman's come back.
Yeah. Now who do I want to be like? So Gordon Ryan's on the scene now.
Okay.
He's early in his career though.
Yeah.
But so rather than Gordon Ryan, what resonated with me was something that I started doing. So my studying for my hobbies started when I was doing powerlifting. Because what happened when I was powerlifting was I'd go to the gym and person A would say, oh, you need to do this program. And person B is like, you need to do this program.
A lot of voices.
Yeah. And I was like, listen, I don't know if I'm coming or going.
All of the gym bros.
Yeah. So when I started studying, what I realized was I found something called starting strength.
Yep.
And Mark Rippetoe. Now people have they don't like him or do like him. It resonated with me. It was really simple.
Yeah.
Progressive overload,
It worked for you, right?
And it worked.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And then I started studying the starting strength squatting model.
Yeah.
I bought the books, started reading the books.
Yeah.
I don't even like reading, but I'm like, I got to
Yeah.
study because there's too many voices and I just don't understand what's going on.
So it seems like you've taken that same research sort of thing into the Jiu-Jitsu
And then
aspect.
I bought that back to Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I need to find someone who's, what we were talking about earlier, someone who studies the sport, who's like got systems that we can break down.
Yes.
And John Danaher was the guy who
the infamous
John Danaher, but his manifestation was Gordon Ryan.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And his team
in Jiu-Jitsu anyway, because obviously he had GSP but
in MMA, but like my MMA, I had no interest in that. So I was like, okay, now this is what, and then studying his systems. Is what brought me back to Jiu-Jitsu and brought that study philosophy back to Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay. So you mentioned, Babar, how you started studying Jiu-Jitsu after you were looking for this role model, which you found in Gordon Ryan. How would you go about studying BJJ? Because there's so much, we have social media. Do we sit there and watch Instagram videos, shorts? Do we watch instructionals? There's so many out there. How did you study BJJ?
I started studying using instructionals.
Okay.
So Adam Wozinski was my first instructional.
Yeah.
Because he was in the gi.
Tell me you learned the butterfly sweep first.
So at the time, I'd spent a lot of time in the butterfly.
Yeah.
Because my coach had said that I'm not allowed to use close guard anymore.
Okay.
And I had to find another guard.
Okay.
And I went to half guard and other guards, and I found butterfly guard, especially in the gi, really powerful.
Yeah.
But now this guy whose whole brand is the butterfly club, right?
Yeah.
So I was just like, I wonder what this guy's take on the butterfly is. And he gave me loads of tips on the book. So that was my first instructional.
Yeah.
Though Instagram and YouTube shorts and this stuff is very powerful, I'd be very careful as a beginner using them. And the reason being is that you don't have a filter at that level yet to be able to filter out the rubbish.
Okay.
And as a content creator, if I'm running an Instagram channel whose whole thing is about technique-based stuff, I have to post every day.
Yeah.
But the good stuff in Jiu-Jitsu is, one, not exciting. It's not going to get me views.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Side control, crossface, underhook. Like, there's only so many flavors of that I can do. Right? So now I have to add a forward roll in it when there's no need for a forward roll. I got to add a spinny spin somewhere. So what you'll find is, what you'll find is content creators create just that content. Rather than good, solid advice. Now there are some out there that are more legit than others. But there's fluff out there. And as a lower belt, it's hard to differentiate the fluff from the real stuff. Running the club, you get loads of people coming in and say, Coach, I saw this. And then they try it. And then I give them the reasons why it's not going to work. And the reasons why there's good parts in it. So it's based on a good movement pattern, it's based on a good situation. But then they've added a backstep. I'm like, why are you backstepping at that point?
It's like, so out of like 10 Instagram shorts or YouTube shorts you might watch, there's one or two that actually have some worth to it that might work with a bit of work on the mats, right? So
it's like when you see them documentaries where they're finding gold.
And
they've got that sieve.
They're
sieving it out, and they'll see
filtering out all the crap,
and they'll see that one nugget, and they're like, "Yes, I'm a millionaire."
And it works, and they probably carry that throughout their journey. How powerful do you think watching competitions are to learn, or is that more so just to find out what the pattern and what the meta is at the moment, and then work on it? Or do you think there's actual learning in competition, watching competitions itself?
It's conditional again. As a white belt, it's going to be hard. Because you're not going to have an understanding of what's going on. My whole mantra to watching competition in Jiu-Jitsu is not a spectator sport. If you're not in it, it's very hard to watch it. So what we tend to watch as humans is drama.
So
if you think about a boxing match, we watch the heavyweights because there's a potential of a knockout. Right? We want the knockout.
Yeah. And the hype and engagement grows.
100%.
In jiu-jitsu, we're waiting for, it's past guard. Oh, wow. Yes. Nico, yes.
It's just not the same buzz.
No.
It's not the same buzz. Entertainment value is not there, so our white belt's going to watch it. Okay, let's say a white belt decides I'm going to watch it. But what are they watching? If your guard, let's say there's 10 levels to a guard, close guard, and you're currently at 0.5.
Yeah.
And this guy at elite level is he's inverting to K guard and pulling the leg through, and now he's going to backside 50-50 and doing all this stuff. You're looking at him thinking, what wizardry is this?
Yeah.
My legs don't go over there.
I'm taking 2 years off.
Like, my legs don't go over there.
Yeah.
So it's hard to study at that level. But as you get into the purple belts or senior blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt, now you have a game.
Yeah.
So you should be studying.
So you can pick and choose. So you most likely, you're not going to, I think what you find is so for example, if we take a certain level belt who's more of a leg locker, for example, they're going to watch in particular the leg lockers. They're not going to watch someone like Kainan Duarte, who's, top heavy. And so it just doesn't go. So they'll pick and choose, whereas the white belt will see it all and probably get put off and never come back to the sport again. I want to speak about the evolution of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. More than half of your life, you've been involved in Jiu-Jitsu. That sounds really long, doesn't it? Half of your life, you have been involved in one way or the other in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What's your take on the evolution of modern BJJ? So, for example, as we know when Dan Haas come in, new wave, the leg locks were the meta. Keenan Cornelius brought in the worm guard, what we're working on at the moment, and that was the meta at the time, even though it didn't take off like the leg locks. But what's your thoughts on what's your take on the evolution of Jiu-Jitsu from maybe when you started to the modern Jiu-Jitsu now?
So when I started, you got to remember, my coach was heavily influenced with judo. And one thing that I think that we are missing in Jiu-Jitsu, even at the higher levels, is good takedown. So one thing that's still heavy in my game is the wrestle up. I'm refereeing now. And one thing that you see is the stand-up game in Jiu-Jitsu has stalled, whereas other parts of Jiu-Jitsu has evolved. It's why in competition, times I'm looking at these guys, someone please just pull guard.
That opens up a can of worms for all of the keyboard warriors to say, forget the guard pull. So
the issue with people who don't like guard pull is if you come to a typical jiu-jitsu class, 95% of it is on the ground. Yeah. The bit that's standing is probably the warm-up.
Yeah.
You are standing up for the warm-up.
Do a bit of wrestling or something.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe, probably not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's on the ground.
Yeah.
Right. If it's a jiu-jitsu competition, let's do jiu-jitsu. There's a whole sport dedicated to wrestling. Yeah. It's called wrestling. Right.
And that's got so many variations.
There's a whole meta and sub-meta on wrestling. Yeah. So if you want to wrestle, there's competitions out there. Yeah. Go wrestle.
Yeah.
Right.
Go to a wrestling club.
There's nothing, I'm not saying it's in a bad way. Wrestling's been around for a lot longer than jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So when I want to bring something new to jiu-jitsu, go look at what the wrestlers are doing.
Yeah.
If you want to get off your back, go watch what the wrestlers are doing, because their whole thing is never go to your back.
Exactly, and bring that into your game.
And bring that into your game. So I'm not saying this as a diss to wrestling. What I'm saying is,
it's just that if you want to do that,
there's a whole sport.
Yeah, you don't need to come to a jiu-jitsu class to do wrestling, and we give mad respect and mad props to wrestling. As you mentioned, you've got your own wrestling coaches as well. Yeah.
So we need to be better at wrestling as jiu-jitsu people.
So to be better at jiu-jitsu, you need to be in the gi or no gi. You need to be better at wrestling.
Yeah. And the reason is, if you look at wrestlers and you look at judo players, they will not give up position.
No.
To sweep someone in judo, someone who does judo. Right. So in their sport, when they come to jiu-jitsu, on the jiu-jitsu match, to sweep someone in judo is you have to fight for your life. They will spin in midair, they will stand up, they will run. Yeah. If you get a wrestler who's top heavy, to be able to sweep him is a hard day.
And if you get it, you sweep it. You're really good at sweeping then, aren't you?
If you get them in the sweep, you're going to see them scramble to the top.
Whereas if it's a jiu-jitsu guy, they'll just probably invert and accept and start playing whatever guard they choose.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a whole, and there is an issue with that, but we're talking about the stubbornness, the mentality. Yeah. The mentality of the fight. There's more of it in wrestling. There's more of it in judo.
Yeah.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu is very laid back.
Yeah, I can understand why though as well, because obviously, like you said, in wrestling, it's all about getting pinned, scoring points on the pin. Judo, getting an ippon, getting back to the floor. So there's much more emphasis in judo and wrestling for that. So I totally get your point on that one. Jiu-Jitsu's evolved massively over the years. And, as an example, we mentioned leg locks were the flavour of the month. That one. What is the flavour of the month, in your opinion, at the moment? So what is the latest kind of meta at the moment that Jiu-Jitsu finds itself in?
If you step back and look at it, it kind of happens in a rotation. Right? So wrestling will be big, and then what you'll find is people start guard pulling to counter the wrestling. Yeah. So the bottom guard becomes like super meta. Yeah. Right? And then people are pulling guard, so guard passing.
Yeah, it's a cycle, isn't it? It's a cycle.
And when guard passing becomes a cycle, them guard pullers will now start wrestling. Right. So you can't pass my guard if you can't take me down. Yeah. Right. And then them people who are guard passing will become guard pullers and say, okay, you wrestle, I'll guard pull. And it's that circle that just keeps on going.
It keeps on feeding itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. But every time we go around that circle, we just get better. Yeah. As a whole community, we lift. At the moment, I'm doing guard passing, and I was doing a lot of inside guard passing. Yeah. And the guys were starting to block my inside passing. Okay. So now we're going to outside passing.
Yeah, as we all know.
and I'm getting a lot of success in my outside guard passing. But as people start blocking that, I'm going to have to start chaining them two together to go back to the inside passing. Yeah. And as I'm getting better at the passing, everyone's guard retention, getting better as well. Everyone's guard retention is coming up as well. Yeah. So it's a like you said, it's a self-feeding cycle. Yeah, so at the moment, I think guard passing is big. Okay. I think guard passing is big.
Yeah. But, that's outside passing, you think?
Is bigger.
Because it seems to have come back in at the moment. There's a lot of, I know Joseph Chen's quite heavy on it.
Yeah, but his is more tripod passing, right?
It's like a kind of like a body lock style.
Like a body style, yeah. So he's well known for that, but his latest instructional is to do with outside passing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. A lot of hand fighting to outside passing. Yeah. He's doing that, and in his comp he does a lot of that. Yeah. Especially directional passing. If you look at the Tolo brothers, they're very well known for that stuff.
Maybe the Tackets as well.
The Tackets are phenomenal.
Yeah. Excellent. And this is, I think this is a bit personal to you, but I want to touch on this because I hear you saying it a lot, and we see it as a game fight slogan nowadays on the gram. So you might need to correct me on the slogan, but I think the slogan is community first, excellent as standard. Yeah. It's really deep. I want to touch on where this has come from. So, and you mentioned this now, and I know you give back a lot to the community. You really do. And, without getting too mention no names and getting too deep into it, you do a lot of things for people which may not be value to you, and it takes your time, but it means the world to these people. What drives you to give back to the community? Why do you feel like you need to give back in a way? What I really want to know is what drives you to give back to the community?
There's an Instagram post I've been writing for years now, and I've never published it. Okay. And it's, you only live once. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the society that we live in, it's a theme that I only live once, I'm going to have a good time. Yeah. And I don't care about anyone else. Yeah. I'm going to live my life. Yeah. And I'm going to, if it offends other people, so be it. Yeah. And I feel, and this is personal, this is my opinion, I feel that's a poison in our society. Mm. And what we're missing is what we used to have back in the day. And one thing that I feel that a lot of people do is they sit and complain about the world's going to pot. Yeah. But then they're not doing anything about it. someone said to me once that if you do something for 5 years, someone will want to learn from you. Alhamdulillah, I've been doing this for longer.
25.
25 years. And people are wanting to learn.
Yeah.
And Jiu-Jitsu is an excuse for me to be able to start saying to kids, listen, it's not about you.
Yeah.
Right? And if I can tell one kid, if I can influence one kid to open the door for somebody else, right? To say please and thank you, right? To look beyond themselves, and say, actually, you know what, I'm doing well. How about this person? I can bring him up as well.
I get that.
And if I can get that over to one child, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
So that's for me. It's not about me. I've been blessed.
Yeah.
Right? I live in a comfortable house.
Yeah.
I drive a comfortable car.
Yeah. Which I have to fix sometimes.
I remember one of my teachers. So we were in A levels, and I walked in, and he was saying to me, "Oh, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from?" I told him I'm from Girlington, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, "Baba, there's two ways out for you." I'm getting croaky, boys. There's two ways out. There's two ways out for you. Either the life of crime or study. And in our BDA, BD9 environments, there's too many bad role models. All the drug dealers drive the nice cars.
Yeah.
So that's why.
It's alright, it's deep, man. It's deep. If you want to it's deep, man.
Wow. That's why game fight is important.
Yeah.
It's a role model to the kids.
Yeah. Mate, it's real, mate. It's real.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, no, it's alright. It's alright. It's a deep question. It just shows how much you want to give back, and you know it just shows your passion towards that. You know, it's not about the money. It's more to give back to community, and you know what? We commend you for it, Baba. I commend you for it, and everyone does. And we need people like you. And this goes into a nice segue into my next question, which is going to be the last question. And I think to get this honest, kind of real, uncensored, true emotion, I think honestly, you're not going to get this anywhere else except the flowing state of BJJ. So make sure you catch us on the next one as well. But to finish this off, Baba, and thank you for sharing that with us, by the way. What do you want your legacy to be in BJJ? We're not striving to be the next ADCC world champion here. But in terms of, I think it's bigger than BJJ, and you've shown this, where this is your way. You've been blessed with everything, but you didn't turn your back to people. You actually opened your arms and you welcomed people, and BJJ has been a tool for you to express that. What do you want your legacy to be in BJJ when you stop training? How do you want people to remember you?
I was a good guy.
Yeah.
And I cared.
Yeah.
I think that's the best I can ask for.
Yeah.
The rest of the jiu-jitsu doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Being good at jiu-jitsu is it'll come over time.
Yeah.
Spend time on the mat, you'll get good at it.
Yeah.
But for the kids to remember me as someone who listened.
Yeah.
Someone who paid attention.
Yeah.
I think that's all you can ask.
You know, it's more than what you can ask for. Yeah. And guys, I think, I just want to say thank you to Baba for sharing his whole story. And, we took a real deep dive into that. And as you can see, there were certain things that, which we feel passionate about. And I think we have to commend Baba on, sharing that with us. Next week, we will be talking about parenting and jiu-jitsu. Me being a parent and my kid under Coach Babar here at Game Fight Training. There's a lot of things we can talk about, and it's probably all about me because I'm that guy who, do this, do that, and then it's like, Tubsi, get on the mats. And, and then when he gets on the mats, he's a nice guy now, and that's what you said as well. And I think it'll be good to get your kind of view as well on how you think parents can make or break a child's jiu-jitsu.
Being a parent as well, right?
Exactly, and your kids train as well.
Yeah.
So we'll be touching on that as well. So today we just wanted to change it up a bit. We thought, let's do a bit of an origins on Babar, which I think has gone fantastically. And, I'd like again to thank Coach Babar for sharing with us his experience throughout his life. And, I'm sure he'll watch this in 10, 15 years and think, oh God, why did I say that? But, but thanks for sharing that as well. But I feel like I have to shake your hand for sharing that. It was really good.
Appreciate it.
And make sure you comment on some of the thoughts that Coach Babar's gave. You might want to share your journey, your experience. Do you have similar thoughts on how your game has evolved? And make sure to give us a subscribe as well. So we'll see you on the next one. Oos.